How y'all doing? Unbelievable. I don't believe you. My name's Mike Geig. Was anyone here last time I did a talk? Here? Oh, I'm sorry. So my name's Mike Geig. Other people might remember me as the guy that shows pictures of Angelina Jolie and everything. Anyone know where this picture's from? Hackers 1995. Hackers. Amazing hit. Angelina Jolie, bunch of people don't matter, save the world from evil. You've heard this before if you see me talk before. Generally, my introduction goes something along the lines of, joke about Angelina Jolie, I had an awesome childhood. Fast forward a few years, I'm alluding to the fact that I'm secretly a hacker. End intro. So my name is Mike Geig. I work for a company called Unity Technologies. We make the Unity game engine, which is a game engine, right? We're not very clever with our naming. And we help with making games across all different platforms and genres, web-based, obviously mobile, console, AAA, whatever, right? So very prevalent. And today, I'm here to talk a little bit about VR, virtual reality. Now, has anyone done a recent VR experience? Has anyone tried VR recently? I say recently, that's important because Virtua Boy doesn't count, right? Watching Lawnmower Man doesn't count, right? There's kind of a timeline where VR became a real thing, and then everything before that was kind of not so much. So a few people here have tried it, so fantastic. VR obviously stands for virtual reality. And VR has a little cousin we're not going to talk about so much called augmented reality. But we're going to talk a little bit about VR, what it was and what it is, and so on and so forth. So this is my second time talking here. You might be thinking, what was Rosetta thinking when they invited me back? If anyone remembers my last talk, I don't really know what it was about. I always wanted to go back and watch it because I don't even know what it was about, but they never recorded it. Probably a good idea. And so, we'll never know. Also, kind of what was I thinking, agreeing to come back, because, Rachel totally stiffed me at this party in January at Code Match, and so I was like, I don't know if I want to go back. Rachel totally stiffed me. But they earned it.
I am for real. Never meant to say your last name wrong. I will say I'm sorry all day long. I'm sorry, my guy. I am for real. Never meant to ask you really long. I will say I'm sorry all day long.
It's not done yet.
Well, that's it. I only wanted to show the segment of it. I didn't want to put you through the entirety of it. I was Rachel and Fawn. Fantastic. Certainly a career highlight, and definitely enough to convince me to come back. So here I am. Amazing. I'm showing everybody that. This is literally in the intro of all slide presentations I'm doing this entire year across the country. So good job. Hey, she gave me permission to show it to people. So if you're mad about that.
I was in the video. You didn't ask me for
I got half permission. That's enough. I'm not a lawyer, but neither are you. I think I'm good. All right. So, before we can talk about what VR is now, what virtual reality is now, and the sort of the things that it's capable of, we kind of have to go back a little bit and talk about VR in the past. All right? Because virtual reality is not new. Right? There have been many attempts at virtual reality, and there's been many successes, a whole lot more failures, but there's been a lot of even virtual reality experiments to prove it was even possible. Because if you think about it, we didn't really know for a very long time that if we showed different images to each of your eyes, if that would even be an experience, right? We didn't even know. The idea of VR originated in 1838, just almost 180 years ago, with the Wheatstone stereoscope. Now this was a very important experiment. Effectively what they do is they show two different images, one to your left eye and one to your right eye, as you look at these two mirrors, right? The result is that your brain would actually fuse them together into a single image. Before this, we had no idea that would happen, right? And so this proves that your brain takes your eye inputs separately and turns them into something that makes sense. Even if they don't quite make real sense, your brain's gonna do the best it can to make it work. This is cool because it makes VR possible. This is not cool because it makes all your motion sick and terrible VR. It's gonna make you vomit and all those fun things, right? Because your brain just kind of freaked out, all right? But it is a starting place, and it was a long time ago. A lot of stuff happened since then, and then we got 1994, 1995 with the Sega VR and Virtua Boy. Anyone ever play with Virtua Boy? Fantastic. Pretty amazing, right? My favorite thing about the Virtua Boy is, for whatever reason, it was only red. The only color it could show was red. All lines, all text, everything was red. And the image was positioned about 1.5 inches above your actual eyes. All right, the Virtua Boys stopped being manufactured pretty quickly, because if you used the Virtua Boy for about an hour, you would start trying to take a drink and just pouring it all over yourself, because you were expecting everything to be about 1.5 inches higher on your face than it really was. Your brain just adjusted for that weirdness, and as soon as you took your visor off, everything was super blue, and you kept falling over and pouring stuff all over yourself, right? Because your entire world shifted, right? Now, while the Virtua Boy is a fun pastime and something fun to make fun of, right? It stands as actually a very interesting experiment testament to the fact that your brain will kind of adjust and heal, right? Kind of any stimulus you give it. If I show you only red for so long, your brain turns everything blue to bring you back to white, right? If I adjust your entire worldview by 1 inch, your brain is going to recalibrate itself very quickly to do that, right? And that allows for some very interesting experiments, some very interesting pieces of software that allow us to treat finite spaces as huge open fields by just slowly adjusting how your brain navigates you, causing you to walk in a turn even though you think you're walking straight. And you'll just walk circles but think you're going straight for miles, right? So a lot of interesting things come out of this that aren't necessarily successful. In my opinion, the most important things of previous virtual reality, right? And by previous virtual reality, I mean anything kind of before the mid to late 2000s, right? Is this idea of what is VR? Because for a long time we had this idea of what is VR? Well, we know what VR is. We know exactly what VR is. VR is these things, right? So VR is basically a personal 3D monitor. It's in your face, showing different images to each eye, and you see 3D imagery. All right? It's a new genre for video games. The prevalent VR space, right, before now, has been almost entirely video games or government research on brains, right? There has been really nothing in between. And while I love all government experiments on brains, right, it's not exactly the most lucrative of industries, so it didn't really drive much forward. We also think that VR is generally a solo experience. How could it not be? Strapped to your face, you learn that it's kind of this cave you put yourself in to experience things, all right? We assume specialized hardware, which is true, right? You need very special hardware for VR, and VR is mostly gauged towards short, gimmicky experiences, right? 2 to 5 minutes, not a whole lot more. Anything longer can cause eye stress, sickness, recalibration issues, right? Where when you take it off, you have some problems, right? And this is the sort of stuff we tried and experimented with, so from 1838 all the way until very recently. The big problem is it's all completely wrong. It's all entirely wrong, all right? It's not just a 3D monitor strapped to your face. It doesn't work like that. There's actually a lot that goes into how we make it work, right? Very specific focusing lenses, very specific spaces, depths, and so on, right? It's not really a new genre of video games, just like video games are not a new genre of board games, right? I wouldn't say, oh, what board game is that? Oh, it's Pac-Man, right? It's just this, it's the video game genre of board games. VR is not really a genre of video games or any other form of entertainment. It kind of supersedes all of that, all right? It's not really a solo experience, right? Sure, you're putting a visor on and you can only see this, but more and more our systems come with the visor that you look through and then a screen that everyone else gets to look through and see what you're seeing, just not in the immersive way, right? So there are very social applications these days. And new VR actually has a chance to put you in rooms with people from all over the world and talk to them and see them and interact with them in real time, right? Way more social than you could have been previously. Based on specialized hardware, yes and no. As we're going to see, there's actually a VR headset that's made entirely out of cardboard that you can print out. You can buy them for $4, right? So really specialized hardware, not so much, all right? And finally, short gimmicky experiences, also not true. There are a lot of ways we can use VR for extended periods of time. The idea that it's going to make you sick, or it's going to cause strain, is mostly due to just bad implementation of software and hardware, right? So it doesn't have to be like that. So what VR is, besides, we know all these things that VR is not now. But what VR is this concept called presence. All right, and that is the power of VR, and that is what allows us to do a lot of things with it. So we're gonna try this out. I'm gonna have Rachel. She's gonna be my assistant. She's gonna put the VR headset on, and she's gonna experience some VR, and she's gonna just sort of tell us what she's experiencing. It'll be fun. If it's not, it'll be fun for us. All right. So one moment here while I set this up. Probably a good idea. All right. So what we're doing is I'm using the Gear VR, which is an interesting headset because it just uses your phone as its screen. So it's actually a really cheap headset.
How well does the Google Cardboard work?
Well, you have to maybe define that. It does a decent job, but it does a decent job for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting much, that's why I haven't bought it.
$4, I know.
You can bring your own. And really,
Times are tough, man. Recession. Yeah, I'm crowdsourcing. Hey, anybody got $1?
I've got one. You want it?
So it's that bad.
It's
all I need to know.
not that it's that bad. It's just, it's a demo.
I mean, yeah, that's why I never took the time to cut it.
It's worth $4. Totally worth $4.
But then if I'm going to cut it up myself.
Did you just complain about it? Just to be clear,
You
you
should,
only find $4
when you said if I'm gonna spend $4, did you mean that
Remember
as
the conversation
$4 being a significant amount of money?
It was
By the way, wearing a
semi-sarcastic.
VR headset makes you look really, really cool. So if there was any other reason. All right. So here's what you're gonna do. You already know about the focusing ring here. I don't want to take you left. Just a second. You're gonna look around. You're gonna see a reticule, a pointer. You're gonna look at the button that says play, and then tell me, and I'll tap right here, and that's gonna start it up. So go ahead.
They make a Chinese
You'll have to turn your head.
I'll bring it in.
Not your eyes.
Try it out.
Yeah, stay wherever you are. But you're gonna put that pointer by turning your head and go to the play icon and tell me when you got it.
He just said he wouldn't spend
See it?
$4.
Here, I got some headphones. Put those over your ears. Adjust. Tell me when you're looking at the play icons. Do you get to throw things at your range, by the way? No. Look to your right.
Now, the new one.
See it? All right, moving the pointer over the plate again. Okay, move your hand. Is it blank? Okay, cool. All right. So right now, she's doing an experience. This is something that was shown at Sundance, the Sundance Film Festival, 2014. And so, what do you see? Look around.
Oh, shoot. I don't like being on a ramp.
Why are you standing on a ramp? All right.
It's not a ramp, it's
Right here. Come here. We're moving you off the ramp.
It's a mountain.
Moving you off the ramp. All right, there you go. A sunset, a sunrise, maybe.
Sorry, sunrise.
Yeah, there you go. That's the one.
I see birds. I just,
It's always fun watching.
I'm in the middle of a lake, so I feel like I should be swimming.
So you
Go ahead.
What's that?
Nacho. No.
There's birds.
Water.
This is really reminding me of Lost right now.
YouTube.
Put your hands down. What are we looking at now? That's what I was waiting for. Oh, that was what I was waiting for.
I was creepy, I don't like that.
Right? You felt it, didn't you? She just got hit by a train.
I can't hear you anymore.
That's good. But what's interesting is we have these experiences, right, that kind of go beyond just looking at a 3D screen. I wouldn't sit in a movie theater with 3D glasses on and actually feel a train hit me, right? But you do in these environments, right, because of this thing called presence, right? You feel that you're there, and more specifically, and ultimately, more importantly, your brain thinks you're there. It doesn't know you're not, right? And so that allows for a very next level interaction between people and software.
Whoa! Someone
got a tweet? Sweet.
I got a tweet.
All right. It's also my phone in there, so if she sees any emails or
Christmas email.
But somebody was actually there.
yeah.
Wait, I don't see anything anymore.
It might be over.
Okay.
All right. You take that. All right.
No negatives.
You can take the headset off. All right. What'd you think?
That was crazy.
Yeah. I wanted to warn you about the train, but then I didn't.
Good choice.
Yeah. Actually, that happens at exactly 57 seconds in, and I was gonna wait and then point at her for the screen, and then pretend I was a magician, but I forgot. All right. Felt pretty neat, right? A little unnerving.
Very unnerving.
Did you feel the train a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard it before something. Yeah.
Oh, you weren't looking at it when it happened.
No.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
like, yeah.
I wonder if the headphones aren't in all the way. Normally, it's binaural audio, so you should know which way it is and generally try to face it.
I think I just didn't know which way.
Great survival instincts. All right. So if you hear a train coming, I don't know where it might be behind guys. All right. So when we talk about presence, right? These are the things we're talking about. Now, last time I was here, I talked about immersion, this concept of immersion, specifically when talking about video games. Immersion or flow, right? You know that term, hey, I'm in the zone. Man, all morning I've been in the zone. I've just been doing so much work and, 4 hours passed. I didn't even realize it. I've done all this stuff. Or I watch a 3-hour movie and I didn't even realize it because I was there. It was like it happened. Or I'm playing a video game and I tell my friends, oh, I slayed this dragon. You didn't do that. You were at home being fat on your couch with a controller, right? But you think you did somehow, right? That's immersion. It's this concept that the part of your brain that knows something is not real turns off, and the rest of your brain just keeps going, right? Most of your brain is built in using these feedback loops, right? The brain, even though it has like, what, 1 billion neurons or something ridiculous like that, still reuses a lot of space, right? So, that's what limits our capacities a lot because our brain kind of just makes the same stuff do the same stuff, and a lot of it's just kind of not used, all right? A great example of how those feedback loops work is if I asked you how many rooms were in your house, or apartment, or home, or wherever you live, right? And if you go to count, mentally, most of you are probably either walking room to room and counting, or kind of flying above your house and counting, right? And what's neat about that is that in order to remember that, the memory part of your brain is sending those signals to the input part of your brain, that's then sending it to the process part of your brain. And the process part of your brain has no idea you're not actually flying over your house counting or walking around in your house counting. It thinks you are because that's what it's seeing, hearing, and experiencing because your memory is sending that in, right? Immersion does that for us. Immersion is sending stimuli to your brain. And if the front part of your brain isn't currently turned on, right, then it's just going into your brain and your brain's like, this is real, this is reliable, this is actually happening, right? And that immerses you completely. Right? And that's a big part of presence. All right? Another part of presence is singularity. Right? Does anyone know the singularity? People have been freaking out about it forever. It's when humans merge with machines and the world ends and Skynet and everything bad happens and Arnold. Right? That's the singularity. Singularity is kind of where we fuse with machinery. And presence is effectively allowing not only machinery, right, to give us what I call AI. And I know what you're all thinking. It's not artificial intelligence when I say it. I'm talking about artificial imagination, where the machine is doing this processing work and feeding these images directly into your brain so that you don't even have to kind of see them anymore. They just sort of come in, right? And you then can interact directly with the machine by looking around and using, say, inputs that are going to happen in a much more natural fashion than using a controller, right? In real life, swinging a sword is a lot different than pressing the A button, which is wrong. We all know sword is the X button, A button's job. But in real life, turning your head to look, and in a video game, turning your head to look, is the exact same motion, right? So you've now received a singularity, right? Where you and the machine are speaking the exact same language, right? Presence is also this concept of agency. Have you ever seen a movie, right? I'm just, period, end of statement. Have you ever seen a movie? Should be question mark, I'm sorry, end of statement. No. Have you ever watched a movie and you thought to yourself, that's cool, but what is that over there? Right? Or just like, all right, but what? No, show me. I wonder who is he talking to, or what's going on, right? Or did I think I saw that cocaine? Right? Maybe I watch different movies than you guys. I don't know. But But you're like, no, go back. And what you do, you grab your remote and you rewind, right? To get back and try to maybe pause it and see that thing you thought you saw, right? Well, agency allows us to say, all right, cool, that's happening, right, whatever. I'm gonna go look over here, right? And go and do that and turn and look at something else. She didn't see the train coming because she was looking at a dragonfly. There's survival instinct for you. I'm just joking. I'm sure in real life, a train, you'd hear that. I can understand too. You're in the middle of a lake. You're not thinking of trains, right? So I hear you. But agency is your ability to change the thing that you're experiencing in a very natural way, right? And finally, memory. All right. When you do something that has presence, when you experience something with presence, it's written into your brain differently than playing a video game or watching a movie or reading a book, right? It's written into your brain. It's written into your memories as something that actually happened. Right? And so that when you play it back, it's more real to you, right? Which then makes future experiences more likely to be written as something that actually happened, and so on and so forth. Therein, the more you use the machine, the more realistic and the more able you are in it, right? You get used to it and it works well, right? And all of these things work together to create this thing called presence, right? And right about now, about a third of you are going, oh my God. The machine makes it easier to take over your mind, right? Which is mostly true. But it's also a lot of fun, right? You know, third rule and all that stuff. It sounds scary. It sounds science fiction and all that stuff, right? But it is real. And it's based on how our brains work. And computers have been doing this forever. Before computers, newspaper articles, right? And have you ever just walked by a newsstand and thought, man, I want a Whopper. Why do I want a Whopper? And all these articles about Whoppers and stuff, right? Subliminal messaging. It's all been a part of our pattern programming for a long time, right? But VR now enables us to utilize that in a way that's fun, entertaining, engaging, and allows us to experience, know, and understand things in very interesting formats. And that is presence. And that's what we're going for. All right. So that brings me to now. The past is the past. All these things kind of didn't work out, kind of did. Told us a lot of different things. And we understand now that besides all of these other things we think VR is, or are, or was, or will be, or whatever, it's all kind of wrong. Presence is the key. Whatever we can do to achieve this presence, that's important. And so now let's talk about VR in the modern age, now that we kind of know this, right? And as I have written here, modern age means about the last 3 years. Right? That's modern age. We now have a kind of a good idea of where hardware should be, where hardware is, right? So there are things we need for VR to work. Specifically, we need a set amount of frames per second. All right, most media presents itself at 60 frames a second for like movies and stuff. You go to the movie theater, those are probably 30 frames a second. TV's 24 frames a second, but you get like a Blu-ray that's 60 frames a second. Most, your computer monitors, all this stuff, 60 frames a second. That is the very minimum you can have to have a reliable experience without getting sick or eye strain. Which means most of our hardware, most of the hardware in this world is only minimally capable of giving us a realistic experience, which is kind of sad. The average VR experience will have about 75 frames per second, or 75 hertz in a display, right? What we're aiming for is 120 frames per second, which is really, really hard to achieve, all right? If a screen is 1080p, right, and anyone has a calculator or a watch calculator if you're cool, right, or a calculator watch, not sure which, multiply 1920 by 1080, that gives you the total number of pixels, then multiply that by 120, and that's how much pixel data you have to push every single second to get that frame rate. It's a really big number. It's like greater than 10 at least, all right? It's really, really hard to achieve. So we're getting there, right? Right now, 75 frames per second is where everyone sits. We'd like it to be more, to reduce eye strain and make it a more realistic experience. The next is field of view. And field of view plays very highly in with this thing called lens distortion. The field of view is how much you can see. All right, has anyone ever worn horse blinders? I'm not gonna ask why. Fair enough. I thought I would get someone. I thought someone would be like, yeah. My big sister was mean to me as a kid or something. Field of view. The humans have about 200 degrees field of view when you use both of our eyes. All right, that's a pretty big field of view. VR currently, I mean, it varies from device to device, but we generally get about 60 degrees. All right, so put your hands like this. That's about what you can see. And you realize that you was kind of limited peripheral. You had to look at something to see, right? And so we really would like to get closer to 200 degrees field of view, but as of right now, we're stuck at about 60 because most of our displays are still flat or slightly curved. As a matter of fact, to get the effect that we get now, we need to use specialized lenses, which cause a warping, distorting effect. And then we have to write software that'll warp in the opposite direction so it looks normal when you put these headsets on, right? And that's this lens distortion. So as lens technology gets better, as screens adapt and change and get better, this will all get better. The next thing we want to worry about is resolution, all right? Most devices right now are either 1080p, right, or 4K. 4K is becoming more popular, all right? 1080p is not enough pixels, all right? It's just not. You might look at a 1080p monitor or a 1080p TV and think, that looks great. But when you're putting a screen very close to your face and using a magnifying glass lens, you're going to see every little pixel, right? So 1080p is no good. Even 4K is not really good enough, right? But those are our averages right now. Where we really want to be is at the very least 1080p per eye, or ideally 4K per eye. When we get there, when we get that level of pixel density, all right, we'll finally be at an experience where you're not looking at it through tissue paper or a screen door, you're looking at a crystal clear picture, all right? You bring these things close to your eyes, it's really hard to tell. And then finally, as far as hardware goes, we have new types of trackers that weren't really necessary before, right? We need to track a lot of what's happening in order to present a realistic experiences. Most devices now have gyroscopes and accelerometers. Gyroscopes will tell you your orientation in 3D space. Accelerometers tell you how you're accelerating in Euler angles across 3D space. But new types of tracking, we have eye tracking, right? What are you actually looking at? Yeah, my head's this way, but mine is that way. Humans are cool like that, right? Most animals can't actually do that, all right? But we don't always move our head to what we're looking at. And so without eye tracking, we don't really know what to focus on. And also light tracking, ambient light sensing, right, is also very important to know what would be a realistic brightness to display something at so that it feels appropriate, all right? Most people say, humans have, 5 senses, then there's the 6th sense, ESP, whatever. Humans have 25 senses, all right? One of those senses is knowing approximately what time of day it is, all right? And if a light level and an experience doesn't quite match, you will know it on a subconscious level. You also can feel yourself moving through time. You always know where the core of the Earth is because you can feel gravity. There's a bunch of other ones. There's 25. So yeah, a lot of those senses work against us when we're building real immersive experiences. We also need important software, all right? This is a lot more of a gray area. It is only now that we're getting minimum levels of hardware to have real experiences, right? Most of those stats that I specified, no platform even has close to those. So we are just passing grade right now. So software is a little bit more of a mystery because we're now able to start experimenting more. But realistically speaking, we have a couple of rules. First off, your virtual world is always fighting the real world. Your body, right, is a biological system, right, that has existed, not your body specifically, but humans, right, for a very long time and has survived a lot of stuff through evolution and through whatever you believe in, I don't care, but whatever. We're built to survive, right? So, imagine not a VR experience, but imagine the real world. If you wake up, if you open your eyes, and the world is wavy and has strange colors, and you're wearing a horse blinders and you can't move, what's your first thought? You might be tripping, maybe you're poisoned, something is not right, all right? Same goes for VR. If you put something on, it doesn't look right, it doesn't feel right, right? You might say, hey, I'm wearing VR, it's not great VR. But inside your brain, it's going, oh my God, we ate bad mushrooms. Evacuate all systems. We've been poisoned, we must survive so we can spread our genes, right? That's what the inside of you is saying, right? It's not gonna go like, oh, wait, something's not right. Let me go talk to neocortex. Hey, neocortex, what's going on? Oh, VR? Oh, cool, we're good, right? No, it's just gonna say, burn everything. You're gonna sweat, you're gonna get weak in the knees, you're just gonna throw up, all right? We're fighting that. So our virtual worlds have to be very realistic, right? For instance, for a very long time with VR and any other type of 3D experience, we would use a simple camera system. And we just turn the camera system when you want to look around. Seems right? Seems pretty reasonable. You all realize your eyes are not in the direct center of your head. They're on the outside of your head. So when you turn your head, your eyes swivel in an arc. Yeah, so if you simply turn your field of view in VR, you're gonna get sick because you're expecting your eyes to turn in a sweeping arc. Lots of little things like that are things we're all just now kind of experiencing, right? The UI system, HUDs, right? Data, information, and any normal game experience or whatever, we just put that on the screen. And then you turn, and it's there, right? Seems pretty reasonable. Is there any moment in your life ever where data, anything, even just dirt, doesn't matter, anything, stays at a fixed position in your field of view at all times? No. Unless you have a smudge on your glasses, and you all know how much fun that is, right? No, there is no situation. You have that, your brain immediately thinks, I've been poisoned, evacuate, right? So there are a lot of things we're learning, right? And it takes time. So we're very much fighting with our software. We also have something called the acuity sweet spot. You can actually only see about 10% of your field of view. Everything else is like 80% ineffective, which is why you actually look at the things you're interested in, right? Well, with VR headset, your fixed lenses are right in one spot, so you have to turn your entire head, and it's very difficult dealing with that sweet spot. There's a lot of other stuff too, right? You know, viewer motion and framing, having the correct 3D audio to make something feel right. If you have a sound over here, and you step to the side, and it's the same volume over here, either A, you're gonna get paranoid because you think it's following you, or B, you're gonna get sick because that's not right, So there's a lot of stuff to that. All right, let's talk business stuff. Because, you know, it's important to have numbers, right? Right now, VR is a more niche system. Does anyone say niche? Who says niche? Be honest. Both are grammatically acceptable. Get off my back. I looked it up. Actually, niche and niche come from two different places, but they mean the same thing. So whatever. So niche or niche versus mainstream. Right now, VR there's a small install base, right? It's not huge. It's not as big as, say, just mobile phones in general or whatever, right? However, every piece of hardware that comes out for VR is inevitably and historically always sold out and backordered for a very long time. There is certainly a demand for it, right? And it's growing, right? Current install base is small, but they estimate 39 million devices in circulation by the end of 2016 and 70 million by the end of 2017. 70 million is approximately how many consoles are in circulation across all brands. All right? That's a lot of headsets. All right? Now, those growth numbers are kind of estimated, and we all know how much that's worth. That and $5 would give you a cup of coffee. But, right, mostly it's going to be dictated by the software. If the software evolves at the rate we're expecting, these numbers will stay accurate, or they'll even be low. But if there's no software, there'll be no hardware adoption. So driving software, developing software for VR is a very important thing, which is why a lot of VR companies are giving away dev kits and selling dev kits very cheap, and they really, really need stuff to exist, you know, for people to buy it. That's the classic plight of the Windows Phone, right? There's no apps, right? It's really hard to justify buying that piece of hardware, right? And so VR is kind of in the same boat. Now, while we're talking about devices, there's actually several devices you can get right now, all right? It occurs to me that I forgot a slide for the VR headset I actually have here, ironically. I have here the Samsung Gear VR. It only works with Samsung phone devices though, so if you have a S6 or S6 Edge or whatever, what's really neat about this is it's 99 bucks, and your phone is most of the data driving it. Though it has all of the sensors necessary. Is it playing? I hit a button. But it has all these motion sensors in the headset itself, your gyroscope and your accelerometer, stuff like that. So if you don't need your phone to have those things, and you can have much more accurate things like head tracking and stuff. But let's start at the lower end and talk about Google Cardboard. It's not just a clever name. It's made out of cardboard. More importantly, it is an open format standard. What this means is you can make a cardboard device by adhering to very specific sizes, shapes, and requirements, right? So you have a lot of cardboard devices that are not this, but they are licensed cardboard devices, which anyone can do. It's free, whatever. You just have to adhere to the Google Cardboard standard. What's neat about this is it is literally a piece of cardboard with two very cheap lenses in it, and you just slap your phone in the front, bless you. You slap your phone in the front, and you're experiencing VR. It's completely cross-platform, right? So iPhone, I'm having a hard time thinking of the other platforms. iPhone and iOS, obviously Android, Windows Phone, whatever, right? You slap the phone in there, you have a mobile VR experience. It is very cheap. The downside is it has no external sensors, nothing like that. So it has one button. In the original version, that button was a magnet that activated the compass in your phone. The new one, the button's better. It's a button you push and a little finger inside touches your screen. Yeah, it's amazing. Oh, I love how far we've gone. All right, and so that's the Google Cardboard standard. Now, Google Cardboard, because it doesn't have those sensors and stuff like that, it actually specifically does not have a head strap. And if you put a head strap on yours, it is not allowed to be licensed as a Google Cardboard. These are not made for long experiences. You're supposed to hold it, experience it for a minute or so, and go, oh, okay, and then give it to someone else to experience or stop using it or whatever. Right? They're relying on your own arm fatigue to limit how much time you can use this. Because it doesn't have a lot of that head tracking stuff, you will eventually get sick if you use it for prolonged periods of time. Right? And so it's just one of those things that is fun, a little gimmicky, try something out, oh, that's cool, hey, that's neat, check out this 2-minute video, there's a YouTube app, watch some 360 YouTube videos, and then give it to a friend. Right? That is the Google Cardboard philosophy. VR for everyone, short, fun, and social experience. All right? Next, we have the Oculus Rift. The Oculus Rift is kind of what started this whole immersion, right? This whole resurgence of VR. All right, it started with Kickstarter. People were super into it, which was surprising to everybody. And then it came out; it was real. Everyone just thought, "Oh, that's never actually going to happen," but it did, right? And there has been the first developer kit, which sold out and said it's sold out forever. The second one, which sold out and said it's sold out forever. And now the consumer version, the final real Oculus Rift. Hit the market and was sold out in 15 seconds. All right, and it's on back order through a lot of 2016. All right, and they're really, really stupidly hard to get. All right, this is the thing that started it all. It is a PC experience. So I showed you Cardboard. I have the Gear VR. Both of those are mobile phone experiences. You have a mobile phone, you put it in there. This is a self-contained unit that you hook up to a powerful computer. I say powerful, right? Because it needs to be like a gaming level rig in order to do things like the 120 frames per second with the 4K display and stuff like that. It requires a very powerful machine. They estimate the average person would spend about $1,500 upgrading their computer and buying